Well, hello there everyone. Star Fox is finally out of limbo. Kind of. But we might still be stuck in the Twilight Zone because we're back in the Lylat Wars for what is the 5th time in the series. But hey, you know what? Despite that fact, I've loved my time with this game. It's a lot of fun and very challenging, and to my surprise, there were some subtle but very noteworthy changes in the game alongside the excellent new cutscenes. And because of that, we're doing a boss ranking yet again. I can't help myself. Before that though, I just want to say, I think Star Fox 2026 is a fantastic remake, and if you love the demo, I do believe it's worth the price of admission, but play the demo first to see how you feel. Velen did an amazing job with this, and please, Nintendo, let them make a real Star Fox game next time, and let's not ever mention the Lylat Wars again until I'm at least in my 40s. That being said, let's dive on in with the bottom of the list and what we all know is coming. Number 20, the Copperhead missiles. Yep, I'm still bitching about these fucking missiles. What is there to say? It's not a boss, it's a DPS check, except I swear these things are tankier than they used to be. Maybe I'm just going crazy. I still hate this level, but instead of singing that song and dance all over again, let's talk about how stupid this whole setup is. You get here because you're supposedly being either stealthy by being undetected on Zone S, or taking a warp in Sector X so you couldn't be detected. So why is it that we get ambushed when we're supposedly being really skilled and stealthy and accosted by missiles, but when we're going in guns blazing on Zone S, that somehow leads to us catching the Macbeth base unaware with their pants down and being able to completely destroy them? I don't know, it's stupid. Anyways, these missiles are zero personality DPS checks, they're not doing this place any favor, and yeah, Sector Z still sucks. Moving on. Oh yeah, Kat's also here. I'll admit, I don't like that she looks kind of like a crack addict in this game, but at the same time, I do think Brittany Cox does an amazing job as her new voice actress, so take the good with the bad. Number 19, the Bulls Satellite Core. Yep, it's still the perfectly fine Bulls Satellite Core from before. That's all I've got for this one, so let's move on, I suppose. Number 18, Golem. Another boss I have very little to say on. It's not a character or a bioweapon, it's just a guardian of this ancient temple that isn't elaborated on in any sort of way. Now, as the final flight test, I think it works very well for what it needs to do, make sure that you're a good pilot, but while I generally like the graphics in this game, I don't mind the new character designs either. This particular boss fight doesn't do it for me visually. The boss model looks fine, but something about this hallway just screams game and Unreal Engine or one of those Nintendo hire this man sorts of YouTube videos. I don't know why, I can't really explain it. Something about the lighting here, I guess. The fight's fine. It's, well, I already compared it to Crimson Skies back in the Star Fox 64 boss ranking, but yeah, it reminds me of the temple level from Crimson Skies, and that's about all I've got to say. Number 17, Granga. The first boss of the game, and, well, the presentation's definitely a lot cooler, and I think he has new attacks like the Plasma Cannon, but I'm not sure. This is the first time I've let him live long enough to see him do much of anything in well over a decade. You can still kill the boss in under 10 seconds, but this time around I noticed the boss was a decent bit more aggressive, especially with the aforementioned Plasma Cannon in addition to the much improved presentation with the battle taking place in a burning city as opposed to a random ass field. And while the game isn't a part of retro achievements, the challenge modes fill that niche pretty nicely, and this boss is a fun challenge to destroy all of his different limbs before taking him out, and I'm always down for those kinds of twists on the formula as little optional challenges for those who want to go above and beyond. So I do give him some bonus points for that, but unfortunately he can still die all too easily, and you can basically skip this fight if you have even slightly upgraded weapons. Number 16, Spyborg. If there's any boss I'm going to be judging unfairly on this list, it's the Spyborg for one very simple reason. Its voice is really so fucking annoying in the remake. And I don't know why they did this. I mean, Brittany Cox is a great voice actress, and she does a really good job as Kat in the same game, despite Kat looking like a crack addict. But this thing is just completely grating on the ears, even when the original wasn't. Anyways, mechanically, it's still a pretty good boss fight, following the same template as the original fight in Phase 1, and there's not too many changes in that respect, outside of Sector X looking a lot more, well, awesome in the background. Meanwhile, in Phase 2, it'll use magnetism to drag over the Sector X wreckage to throw at you, or start essentially trying to box you with his robot fists. It's a neat idea, but the last phase is also designed to be killed in 10 seconds or less so Slippy doesn't get smacked out of the sky, so you barely get to see any of the new stuff. The fight's mostly unchanged, which isn't a bad thing, but the one big change is the voice is now extremely annoying. Number 15, Sorcerer. Sorcerer's changes are very simple but very much appreciated, and that's simply you have a little indicator on screen when the hatches are available to shoot, instead of just having to rely on Bill eventually getting the message out, which is really nice. Adding to that, Katina looks beautiful in this game. And in other games it always looked more like a rocky canyon sort of area, with some water here and there, but the new Katina looks much more lush, and I like that. Otherwise, this is a boss that's more or less just a part of the level than anything else. It's a massive set piece in the middle of this grand dogfight, and it's sending out, well, more fighters to make the dogfight even crazier. And it's really cool, but with all the new cutscenes, I don't even want to imagine the chewing out you'd get if you failed here and the base got blown up. Number 14, Attack Carrier. I feel like the Attack Carrier is the most recurring boss in the series behind Andross and Starwolf, because this fight shows up in the original Star Fox, Star Fox 64, 64 3D, Star Fox Zero, and now here in Star Fox 2026. Basically, this thing's like the face of the Lylat Wars or something. There's no real changes to the fight other than a much redder paint job, but it is a pretty fun little romp, and even if you kill him almost as quickly as Granga, the fight is still more engaging and not quite as mindless. Number 13, Starwolf Round 1. It's Starwolf, our dogfight of the game. If you like the original, you'll like this fight, and I do like this fight. So, yeah, there's not much for me to say there, but I want to talk about the new voice actors for Starwolf. They all sound different from their classic iterations, and mostly I actually like it. I like Wolf's voice. He sounds a lot like a younger version of his character from Star Fox Assault, and that's my favorite iteration of Wolf. Andrew sounds annoying, but in an underqualified Nepo baby sort of way, which I can appreciate. Pigma's voice I actually really like. He sounds much greedier and less sadistic, which I think is a good choice for his character, so there isn't as much overlap with Leon. Unfortunately, I don't care for Leon's voice. Yeah, he's a sadist, but he used to sound all formal and like a dignified, like some sort of serial killer. But then Assault made him sound like henchman number 2, and now he just sounds like Maynard from Clevitas.
Andross sent us. He doesn't mind if I make a mess. Who's game to split up and go do a bit of hero hunting?
For the record, I love that anime and manga, but a random side villain that hasn't shown up for about 50 chapters, 2 major story arcs, and a 5-year time skip later ain't the reason why. Yeah, anyways, the point is, Leon's not exactly doing it for me. Plus, I feel like Leon got nerfed heavily because he used to be the second best pilot in Starwolf, but he's consistently the easiest for me to kill in this game, and Falco often wins the 1v1s, which I cannot say for any of the other Starwolf pilots. Number 12, Bakun. Nope, you're not mistaken, I genuinely think Bakun is a lot more fun in the remake, and while his attacks seem to more or less be the same, they managed to fix the Blue Marines controls in the remake, at least in my opinion. Not only do the controls feel much tighter and more responsive, barrel rolls actually alter your positioning, and get this, the torpedo button doesn't fire your lasers in between reloads, so you actually have to do something other than just mash the Y button the whole fight, which makes things far more engaging. Plus, I do like the new design, looking more like an organic creature that Andross did terrible things to in his experiment, and the pitch black arena, where all you can see are tiny bits of machinery unless you're firing a torpedo to give you a brief bit of light. The fight isn't perfect, mind you, it's still kind of slow, but it's fun, it's engaging, and the dark arena really gives this boss fight some
good atmosphere.
Number 11, Cyber Andross. Yeah, the fake final boss is still kind of a joke that you can kill in less than a minute. I will say though, I like the graphics and how you can kind of see the machinery inside and the seams. It looks more like a robot or synthetic skin instead of a floating monkey head, even if there was a bit of a charm to that. That being said, I'm not sure how I feel about Andross's voice in this game. He just sounds loud and bombastic, which I guess fits a mad scientist, but it doesn't really carry the same sort of menace that Rick May or even David Frederick White did, for the most part. I will say, even though it is loud and bombastic, It's not Star Fox Adventure destroys the Lilat system levels of stupid. And there are two parts where I really like how the new Andross voice sounds. One of them I will mention much later in the video, but the other is his line he has in the bad ending where it sounds really menacing.
The fools think they've won.
Number 10, Star Wolf Round 3. Okay, this one's gonna be controversial, but I've got a big problem with this fight. Aside from their health being annoyingly high, and God forbid you lose a wingmate in Area 6, or they'll all be on your ass immediately when the fight starts. But another issue I found with this fight that I didn't find in other versions of the game, or at least not in the 3DS version, and I don't remember it being in the Nintendo 64 version, was there's like a 1 in 3 chance you just get hit by one of their attacks coming immediately out of the cutscene like it's Star Fox Command or something. It's annoying and kind of baffling that it's in the game and how they didn't check for that. Or maybe I just have terrible luck, but it happened to me a couple times. Now, there is still fun things in this fight, but it's kind of different stuff. See, one thing I noticed was they're not actually banged up in this fight unless you shot them down on Ficina, which I do think is a really awesome detail. And I love that Fox has insults prepared for every single member of Star Wolf you shoot down. After being reminded of his dead dad every 5 minutes in Star Fox Zero, he's kinda done taking all that shit, and I'm here for it. Unfortunately, unless you come in with hyper lasers, and God forbid you die to this boss fight and have to do it with just a single laser, this battle goes on for way too long. They're immune to charge shots, they seem to take no damage from bombs in this version, and let's just say the successful attempt against this boss fight lasted for 10 minutes. That's an eternity even for a Star Fox 64 level, never mind a boss fight. Yeah, so try to come in here with hyper lasers if you can, or God help you. I do really like how they recontextualize the post-battle part where Fox doesn't pull an "I'll go it alone" from here, and instead it's your wingmates, or just Falco in my case, hold off their scrambled fighters because you managed to catch them by surprise in this attack, but now you have to stop the brains of the operation. Number 9, Goras. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe it's skill issue, probably, but Goras felt a lot tougher than he did in the original. He no longer gets completely demolished by bombs, and he's far more aggressive than he used to be with his claw swipes. He also has laser blasts that he loves to spam, and a much faster tail whip than before. The fight was genuinely challenging this time around. Instead of dying in like 40 seconds, it took me 2 attempts. And the presentation of this fight was kicked up a notch or 5 by the dark sandstorm blowing in the background and this creature constantly roaring when trying to kill you. And additionally, you have to destroy all the limbs to save Slippy instead of just shooting the one that's holding him. It's not a bioweapon, it's something far more primal and mysterious. And the game's not really going to elaborate other than this was a place not even Andross wanted to go. Number 8, Macbeth. This time around, I opted to fight Macbeth head-on, as I remember him always giving me a lot of trouble if I didn't crash the train as a kid. And I definitely think it was just kid me struggling in video games, so the crash is cool, but he's not this insurmountable challenge. It's definitely not in the remake. That being said, there are some really cool things in this fight. He's got different attacks depending on what body parts are remaining on his body, much like Granga, but here the destruction of the parts is more or less mandatory. The tail is capable of grabbing you, picking you up in the air and shredding your HP. The head can rain down spears from the sky that must be either destroyed or avoided. The train is capable of tossing out landmines, and the wings can fire some sort of magnet wave, energy wave, I'm not entirely sure what it is. It's a very involved boss fight, and with 2 different ways to kill him, he's a very standout opponent on top of having the most dialogue of any minor boss in the game, making him a more memorable villain of the week than a lot of the other guys. Number 7, Volcane. I would like to congratulate Volcane for becoming one of the hardest bosses in the game, because that countdown to death is not screwing around. Solar is deadly in the remake, and those silver rings don't heal for shit. while this boss can easily stall you out if you're not careful. Now visually, I love how apocalyptic it looks, and y'all taught me that you can dodge his lava waves by using a somersault, which I never thought of, but that's really awesome and also kind of necessary because this fight will kill you extremely quickly and you can't afford to take careless hits. But I also finally got my answer on why Volcane is here, of all places. So, gameplay-wise, it seems that this thing was supposed to be an alternate boss for Sector X, either alongside or replacing Spyborg, before they made Solar into a level, because originally you weren't really planning to go here. But lore-wise, it's because Andros was kind of told life could not survive on Solar, so he made this thing out of spite. That's hilarious, but also very fitting, as spite is the ultimate motivator for any and all living beings. The fight is great, and it feels like something you'd see as an in-game boss, which is all the funnier that it's the halfway point, even on your route, or basically in the grand planet layout overall. Number 6, Starwolf 2. Starwolf 2 is one of my favorite settings for the fight. It's on top of the Bulls satellite, and in terms of a dogfight, it's a lot of fun. The fight is tough, but not comedically relentless like their third battle, and charged shots actually work, which is nice when these guys are constantly on the move, while also having to deal with the Bulls satellite, which, as a correction, the satellite lasers can hurt you, but they only fire out of the destroyed nodes, which I found pretty good to know. Plus, I'm not the largest fan of the green sky from a visual standpoint, but I like it from the standpoint of the gases surrounding Venom are so deadly that it's stretching out into space and taking over much of its atmosphere. Overall, it's a good time, but we've talked about Starwolf 6 times in the last, week and a half, 2 weeks, and if I ever cover Star Fox Assault, which I probably will, I love that game, then it's going to be even more times talking about them. I'm ready to just be done with Starwolf for a bit. Number 5, Meteor Crusher. Meteor Crusher is still the same fantastic second boss from before, being the first fight that really necessitates targeting the correct position on an enemy. On top of that, the boss is rotating a lot more in Phase 1, making it where you need to be more on point with your hits, and I think that's really cool. It adds a bit more variety to the fight. But what made me want to make this new ranking was, his second phase. Instead of that random electric field that did basically nothing, he now fires off a couple of plasma bolts. And yes, that's a subtle and pretty much minor and insignificant change, but it means that the bosses have a little bit of something different to them. They aren't just one-to-one copies with an HD skin like a certain other remake that's faithful to a fault. And I like that. It's a nice little improvement of quality of life as well as maybe a bit more impact. That's cool. And then his final phase has him feign defeat before turning around and trying to blast you in the face, and it looks awesome, especially with the choir music. But let's talk about the new voice acting. See, I actually like the new voice acting, and, for the most part, but it's a weird case where it's better in a technical sense than the original game, but the original game had almost 30 years of us to get used to those voices. That's the ones we associate with these characters most of the time. Now, I started with Star Fox Assault, so I don't have quite as much of that bias, but I can see why the change would affect people. One complaint I have mostly for Meteor Crusher, though, is he's now too wordy in a sense. Basically, he's taking 10 words to say something that you could say in just 4 words. And because of that, the demo boss, it definitely warped a lot of perception around the game as a whole would be that way. It's not, but I figured I'd talk about it now. Also, Falco no longer says racial slurs despite him being a much bigger asshole in every other aspect, so the game's an automatic 0 out of 10. Number 4, Shogun. So the battle begins, and you fight the Royal Blue and Baby Barf Green Shogun mechs that cannot be locked onto, but with no real defenses, they die super quickly. Also, it's even easier because the radar is a lot, better in this game than it was in the original. Amazing what 30 years of improvement can do. But then comes the real boss fight, the Shogun Warlord, and this guy is weird. Visually, I love the presentation. This is also one of the most improved fights in the game by far mechanically, where now he does things like turn his shield to block your shots and eat hits to make up for his slightly lower HP. He dashes around spacebar more often, and he has very intentional punches and kicks that aren't little piddly shit. Now he'll dash up to you and attempt to cave your fucking skull in the middle of space, and it looks awesome. But his character is completely different, where he used to be this egotistical jackass that loved to say shit like, "cocky little freak," now he's all honor, 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 and I have to wonder if this is supposed to be more in line with how he was in the original Japanese version of the game. I mean, with a name like Shogun, maybe? Or if they just changed it because the egotistical jackass villain was a little bit too homogenized among the Villain of the Week cast. I don't hate the change, it's just very noticeable, but the fight is much cooler now that I'll give it a pass because I love mechs in video games, and having an objectively better version of this awesome battle makes me happy.
This is an honorable defeat!
Number 3, Saru Marine. Yar, matey, I be plundering the deep sea with the most complex boss fight in the original game. Me fight hasn't been changed at all outside of a bit more durability. But what isn't broke doesn't need to be fixed, so let's just point and laugh at Christian's god-awful gameplay as he forgets to blow up the exhaust ports and repeatedly gets hit by the wrecking ball. Oh, sorry. I be a fight that didn't need improving, as I was a perfect villain of the week to begin with, and I give you a ton of bombs for the next level. You're welcome, landlubber. Number 2, Gorgon. Gorgon hasn't really changed at all outside of the Area 6 commander now looking a lot more like General Scales, but I'm still a bit confused if this thing is partially biological or just a big mechanical super weapon. The game's not going to answer that, by the way. Regardless though, seeing all the wreckage in the background of the fight looks awesome, and the tentacles having a big clear animation that before, well, it's a nice quality of life improvement. This was far and away the best boss in the original, and while it's basically untouched, I appreciate that Velen didn't try to fix what wasn't broken because this battle was already basically perfect, but I also remembered to properly speed kill the Gorgon this time around, and watched him die in a very dramatic fiery explosion. Also, props to Falco for being the one guy that keeps consistently surviving all my bullshit. He never once went down in this playthrough outside of the time I let him get killed in the first level for tradition. Overall though, the Gorgon's a great fight, and I think he's probably the best example of asset reuse because apparently this thing was supposed to be a giant plant monster before that got cut, so they turned him into, well, this monstrosity you see here. Number 1, True Andross. If there was any boss in the game that got a massive improvement, it's Andross. He's a large step up from his original fight with far more dialogue than before, and the animation work of this floating head with hands is amazing, and I really have to give that some credit. The first phase is more or less the same as his cyber form, but it's a lot more aggressive as he used to just kind of sit around and do maybe one attack at a time, but now it's not uncommon to see him do something like chain a punch, a clap, and an inhale all together in one attack string, forcing you to really stay on your toes a lot more. And I don't think I ever seen him use the hand clap before. I doubt it's a new attack, but it's still really cool. The real improvement, though, is when his true form is unveiled.
If the system won't bow to me, then it will burn!
This isn't the face-off I had in mind, Andross.
Well, it's not quite the Lovecraftian horror beyond my comprehension, but it works well as the man-made terror perfectly within my comprehension, as I actually like Andross' dialogue here. He sounds like he's gone full-blown fatalist, and I think it's the other time the new voice actor really does a good job here. Phase 2 is a matter of taking out his eyes as they're powering the energy shield that surrounds his brain. And, you know, that's fine, it's kind of what you come to expect. No big deal there. But with the shields down, Phase 3 is a very nice change of pace, as instead of just teleporting around like a jackass and occasionally going for some command grab on your R-wing, he can now just spin attack into you, he cloaks himself, and he can fire out projectiles to keep you on your toes. And hilariously, the floating brain is probably the best dogfight in the game. The presentation's very nice, the choir music really adds to the intensity of the fight, he has a little bit more HP so he doesn't feel completely squishy, and it's a fun final challenge for the player skilled enough to make it to the true battle with Andross. But what really seals the deal for me at number 1 is the escape sequence, as he tries to take you out in his dying breath, while James, who notably has the same English voice actor as Andros here, guides us out. And instead of the dramatic boss music that the original game had, it's replaced with this quiet but beautiful track as we make our escape. It's perfect. I could talk over it, but I honestly think it's better if it speaks for itself.
This way, Fox. Never give up. Trust your instincts. You've become strong, Fox.
Honestly, just makes me want to go play Halo. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I love Star Fox 64, I love Star Fox 64 3D, and I really love Star Fox 2026. It's an amazing remake that's held back by just how many times this series has regurgitated the Lylat Wars plotline. But I'm not going to let that detract from the fact that Velen did an amazing job with this remake. I was worried that it'd be much like the Demon's Souls remake, where it's faithful to a fault, leaving all the horrible imperfections in there, but thankfully, there's enough little changes and improvements that I think it warrants its own existence. Now Nintendo, let Velen make a new Star Fox game, and let's leave the fucking Lylat Wars behind already and make a follow-up to either Assault or Command or whatever. No more Lylat Wars, please. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video, and hopefully the last time I talk about Star Fox for a little while. If you'd like to see more content of varying quality, consider liking, subscribing, and hyping the video, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.